Hello there, I'd like to show you how I make cider using apples from our farm. I highly recommend this book, The Book of Apples. In the back of the book is a very handy index. One of the apples on the farm is Cornish aromatic, and here it tells you all about those. I also like to use Bramley seedling, also Tom Putt. We also have Devonshire Quarrenden. On the farm we have a Worcester pearmain tree, and this imparts a lovely rosy pink colour to the cider. We also have 2 Kingston Black trees on the farm. They are not the most reliable of croppers, and once the fruit is ready you have to pick it immediately. The trees we have are very dark, and the colour bleeds underneath the skin of the apple and it imparts a beautiful russet colour to a cider. We have one magnificent Bramley, and it always crops very well. They're my favourite apple actually, and I like to use them for cooking and eating, and they also are super in cider. Sometimes I also include Cox's Orange Pippins. It's my favourite dessert apple. It's very, very sweet, but very flavourful too for a nice rich cider. I highly recommend the Book of Apples. There's so much information in the history of the apple, where they're all from, and their uses. Also the fruiting and the blossom times. So when making cider, it's always a good idea to use a blend. If you use one particular fruit, the cider can become quite flat in terms of taste. You want a blend of acidity, tannins, sweetness, and obviously juice. Some apples don't produce that much juice. For example, I don't find Sweet Alford to produce too much juice, but the juice it does produce is very sweet. Another sweet one is Cox's Orange Pippin, which is also incredibly aromatic, very flavourful. Cornish aromatic is also aromatic, and Kingston Black is the sort of legendary Devonshire apple, which does very well in a blend. It's got quite a distinctive flavour. You wouldn't want to eat it off the tree. Mother-in-law I use a lot of, and that is a bitter sharp cider. So the name. Bramley is a lovely, highly acidic apple and flavourful. What else do I have? Devonshire Quarrenden, flavourful and sweet. So all the Devonshire apples tend to be very sweet, and the Cornish ones also sweet. The Worcestershire ones from the Midlands of the UK, they are the slightly more acidic fruits. You also want a nice blend of tannins. I've used Peasgood Nonsuch as well in previous years. However, this year we didn't have any fruit, so that's not gone into the blend this year. So I'll talk you through what we do with the apples. Bumblebee, you poor thing. So we're outside now in the orchard. Behind me is the Bramley seedling apple. It is a tip-bearing tree. However, I prune it quite hard because I want to be able to reach the fruit. So all of these, although they will fruit from the end, I cut them off. We also have chickens in the orchard. I'll show you. The grass is somewhat overgrown. Poor hens. And that's the tiny chicken. This tree behind me is Tom Putt. I like to prune all my trees quite hard to keep them small so that I can reach the fruit. My idea originally was to use permaculture principles and allow the tree just to grow naturally and to have sheep in here. It was an absolute disaster. All the fruit was about 25 feet in the air, eaten by the birds. What a nightmare, complete waste of time. So I went back to good old-fashioned Victorian principles and pruned them properly, and now I have a very productive orchard. Although it's autumn and the fruit is already past, sometimes you get autumn flowering and fruit set. This is not a good thing. These fruits will not come to anything, so I just break them off. That's that. This tree is Sweet Alford. It doesn't really taste very nice as an eating apple. Most of the cider apples do, but this one is very, it's like a potato actually, but it produces beautiful cider and juice. This tree is one of my Kingston Blacks. It fell over in the cyclone, and you know, it's fine where it is, so I might just ignore it and allow it to continue to grow. This tree is one of my favourites, and it produces the most lovely cider. This is Mother-in-Law. It's a bitter sharp. So, chicken. And the Kingston Black that I was just standing in front of, as you can see, it's blown over, but it's absolutely fine where it is. While we're in the orchard, I also thought I'd show you these. This is a medlar, which is a relation of the apple. And you enjoy these when they're bletted or rotten in the middle. I will just show you. Here's a medlar. I think the chickens might have already eaten the ones that have fallen from the tree. I don't think this is ripe. No, it's not at all ripe. But anyhow, inside it looks like apple puree, and it tastes very much like apple puree. I really like it. This is a persimmon tree. I have planted this maybe 8 years ago. I'm yet to see it do anything. It's very infuriating. Chicken, I'm trying to get past. Good girl. Off we go. This tree is a weeping mulberry. The fruit is very sweet with very low acid, and it's absolutely delicious to both me and the birds, unfortunately. But the best thing about this tree is the way it grows. If you look through here, it's a lovely little hidey hole from the weather for the hens. A perfect den. Anyhow, this is where the apples are from. We don't use any sprays or chemicals on our trees, and I found that once the tree is strong enough, once it's got over being planted, it will look after itself. The only thing we do have trouble with is cicadas that might burrow into the fresh stalks. One of the problems with growing so many varieties of apples and wishing to blend the fruit is that all of these old varieties ripen at different times. They don't keep particularly well. You cannot just leave them on the tree. The birds, the wasps will eat them and they will just rot. So I harvest them. If I'm going to peel them, I will, and I'll core them, and then I freeze them. And then I'm in no hurry whatsoever to brew my cider. Here's my little freezer tray full of Bramley, and this is a mix of both Kingston Black, Tompat, Cornish Aromatic, and some that my neighbour gave me actually, and they